The packages kept arriving. Small, unmarked, no return address. At the Leipzig mail sorting center, postal workers opened what they thought were undeliverable items. Inside the first, white powder. Inside the second, crystalline tablets. Inside the third, more drugs than most street dealers see in a month. But these weren't coming from Colombia or Amsterdam. They were shipping from a teenager's bedroom in suburban Leipzig. By the time investigators traced the source, one name kept surfacing in encrypted chat logs, Bitcoin transactions and customer reviews across the dark web. Not a cartel boss, not a syndicate leader. Maximilian Schmidt, age 19, still living with his mother. He had built the internet's most efficient drug marketplace. Customers called it Amazon for drugs. Law enforcement called it one of Germany's largest cybercrime cases. But Schmidt wasn't done. Even prison couldn't stop what he started. Between 2013 and 2015, Shiny Flakes processed over 1 ton of illegal substances: crystal meth, LSD, cocaine, cannabis, MDMA, heroin. All shipped worldwide through Germany's postal service. All coordinated by one teenager from his childhood bedroom. The operation earned at least 4.1 million euros. But when police raided Schmidt's family home, they found something more troubling than the drugs or the money. They found a business model, clean, scalable, transferable. A blueprint that would inspire Netflix documentaries, fictional series, and copycat operations across Europe. This isn't just the story of a teenage drug dealer. It's the story of how one quiet kid revolutionized international drug trafficking. Twice. Maximilian Schmidt grew up ordinary. Middle-class family in Leipzig's Gohlis district. Good student. No criminal record. No obvious red flags. At 18, he worked at a local restaurant, clearing tables, taking orders, earning minimum wage like thousands of other German teenagers. But Schmidt was different in ways that weren't immediately apparent. He understood technology, he understood logistics, and he understood that the traditional drug trade was inefficient. Street dealers took physical risks, they dealt with cash, they met customers face to face, they got caught. Schmidt saw a cleaner path. In December 2013, he quit his restaurant job, not for another job, not for university, to build something the world had never seen before. From his childhood bedroom, still decorated with posters from his school years, Schmidt began coding what would become Shiny Flakes. The website looked professional, clean interface, product descriptions, customer reviews, shopping cart functionality, payment processing. On the surface, it could have been selling electronics or clothing. Instead, it was selling death. Schmidt didn't invent online drug sales. The dark web already existed, but he perfected it. Shiny Flakes operated like a legitimate e-commerce business. Customers browsed categories, read product reviews, added items to digital shopping carts, paid with Bitcoin. The reviews were real. 2 of my teeth fell out right away. This stuff really you up, one customer wrote about methamphetamine. Schmidt's response was clinical. It seems he was satisfied.
1A+++ Zeug. Mir sind gleich 2 Zähne rausgefallen. Das Zeug f***t euch richtig weg. Scheint zufrieden gewesen zu sein.
But the real innovation wasn't the website. It was the distribution. While other dark web vendors used complex smuggling routes, Schmidt used Germany's postal service. Regular mail, standard packaging, nothing suspicious. He sourced drugs from established suppliers, repackaged them in his bedroom, and mailed them like Amazon deliveries, sometimes processing 15,000 orders a day during peak periods. His mother's apartment became a pharmaceutical distribution center. The dining room, packaging area, his bedroom, command center, the local post office, shipping depot. Schmidt moved alone. No gang, no organization, no street-level dealers. Just one teenager with a laptop and a bedroom full of drugs. The scale was staggering. Over 14 months he sold 1 ton of drugs. Cannabis, cocaine, heroin, crystal meth, LSD, MDMA. Everything was documented. Customer lists, sales figures, profit margins. Around 14,000 entries in total. Schmidt ran shiny flakes like a startup. And like many startups, it grew faster than anyone expected. Schmidt's system worked perfectly until it didn't. In late 2014, the operation began showing cracks. Server problems and lost packages led to an order backlog. Customer complaints increased. Delivery delays mounted. But the real problem was elsewhere. Schmidt's supplier got arrested. When police investigated the supplier's network, they found large packages being shipped to Leipzig. The same Leipzig address, over and over. Schmidt had made the mistake that brings down most drug operations: repetition. The surveillance began quietly. Postal workers noted the packages. Police tracked the patterns. Address cross-references revealed the Golis apartment where Schmidt lived with his mother. But investigators still thought they were hunting a criminal organization. The idea that one teenager could orchestrate an international drug empire seemed impossible. The breakthrough came through Schmidt's own efficiency. In early 2015, postal workers found undeliverable packages with incorrect addresses. When they opened them, they found drugs. Lots of drugs. The return address didn't exist, but the postmark pointed to Leipzig. Police began ordering from Shiny Flakes directly. Sting purchases, digital surveillance, Bitcoin tracking. Every order led back to the same postal district. Every transaction traced to the same digital wallet. By February 2015, investigators had a location. They had evidence. They had a suspect. What they didn't have was a realistic expectation of what they'd find. On February 26, 2015, German police raided a modest apartment in Leipzig's Golis district. They expected to find a drug warehouse, maybe a small distribution cell, professional equipment, multiple suspects. Instead, they found a teenager's bedroom, school furniture, computer equipment, and more drugs than some cartels move in a year. Over 100 kilos of drugs ranging from cocaine and marijuana to ecstasy and meth, all stored in what looked like a child's room. Schmidt was 20 years old. He offered no resistance, no dramatic chase, no destroyed evidence. He confessed immediately. Maximilian confessed everything to the police and cooperated fully with investigators. He walked them through the operation, showed them the website code, explained the distribution system. Police found detailed records on Schmidt's computer, a sales list with around 14,000 entries, customer information, product inventory, financial records. It was the most comprehensive drug trafficking database German authorities had ever seized. The interrogation revealed the operation's true scope. Schmidt had been operating entirely alone. No partners, no employees, no criminal organization. Just one teenager who understood that the internet had changed everything about commerce, including illegal commerce. The investigation continued long after Schmidt's arrest. Schmidt acted as state witness in trials of his former customers, helping authorities prosecute major buyers who had purchased drugs for further distribution. But even as prosecutors built their case, Schmidt showed no remorse. A psychologist who wrote a report on him during the trial said about Maximilian Schmidt, "I experienced neither regret nor guilt, but pride instead." He was proud of what he had built. And as investigators would later learn, he was already planning his next move. The Leipzig courtroom had seen drug dealers before, but never one like Maximilian Schmidt. He sat through cryptocurrency exchanges. Meanwhile, Schmidt continued his double life. By day, car park attendant, normal job, regular schedule, probation check-ins. By night, criminal coordinator, managing logistics, processing orders, expanding operations. The investigation revealed disturbing details about Schmidt's mindset. He wasn't just relapsing into crime, he was innovating it. Candy Love represented everything Schmidt had learned from his first arrest. Distributed operations, compartmentalized knowledge, professional management structure. But investigators had also learned. They used digital forensics tools that didn't exist during the Shiny Flakes era. Cryptocurrency tracking had improved. International cooperation was stronger. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. In early 2021, an informant contacted Leipzig police. They had inside knowledge of the operation, names, locations, methods. The informant revealed that Friedemann G was running logistics while the bedroom dealer handled technology and coordination. They operated from a bunker apartment, a secure location where drugs were received, packaged, and shipped. More importantly, the informant confirmed what investigators suspected. Schmidt was the mastermind. Despite his public rehabilitation narrative, he remained actively engaged in high-level drug trafficking. Armed with inside information, police accelerated their timeline. On January 28, 2023, German police moved simultaneously across Leipzig. Schmidt was arrested at his apartment. No dramatic chase, no destroyed evidence, just the same calm surrender that marked his first arrest 8 years earlier. Friedemann G, Jens M, Julius M, and an alleged legal advisor were arrested separately. Police seized computers, phones, packaging materials, and drug supplies. They found detailed records, customer lists, financial documents. Once again, Schmidt had documented everything. This time, however, investigators faced a new challenge: encrypted storage devices. Months after the raids, forensic experts still couldn't access Schmidt's encrypted hard drives and USB devices. The digital locks Schmidt installed were stronger than the ones that protected his original operation. The Candy Love trial began in January 2023 at Leipzig District Court. Schmidt appeared confident, almost cheerful. He smiled for photographers, waved at cameras, acted like he owned the courthouse. The charges were serious: operating a criminal organization, commercial drug trafficking, money laundering, violating probation conditions. If convicted under organized crime statutes, Schmidt faced a minimum 5-year sentence, maximum 15 years. During proceedings, prosecutors revealed new details. Schmidt had allegedly coordinated Candy Love operations while filming his Netflix documentary. Some transactions occurred around his interview schedule. The documentary that portrayed him as reformed had actually provided cover for new crimes. Schmidt and his co-defendants confessed to most charges, but they disputed the organized crime allegations. Their defense: this wasn't a criminal organization. It was just friends working together. The court disagreed. On May 17, 2023, Schmidt was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. Friedemann G received nearly 6 years. The others received shorter sentences or probation. But the story didn't end there. Schmidt's legal team appealed immediately. In November 2024, Germany's Federal Court of Justice delivered a stunning reversal. The organized crime convictions were overturned. The case was sent back to Leipzig District Court for retrial. The appellate court ruled that lower courts hadn't properly considered whether Candy Love constituted a criminal organization or just coordinated individual activity. Schmidt walked free pending retrial, No date has been set. He currently lives in Leipzig. He maintains a low profile. No social media presence. No interviews. No Netflix deals. But investigators continue monitoring his activities. Financial forensics experts still work to crack his encrypted storage devices. Millions in profits remain hidden. 2.5 years after the Candy Love raids, Saxon State Police admit defeat. Schmidt's encrypted hard drives, USB sticks, and SD cards remain locked. Despite advanced forensic tools and international cooperation, investigators cannot access the devices. Financial investigators believe the encrypted storage contains information about hidden assets, Bitcoin wallet keys, bank account details, investment records. Schmidt told courts he has no money left from either operation. His bank accounts show minimal legitimate income. His lifestyle appears modest, but authorities suspect he's hidden millions in cryptocurrency and offshore assets. Unlike traditional criminals who hide cash or gold, Schmidt's wealth exists in digital form, encrypted, untraceable, potentially recoverable with the right passwords only he knows. Schmidt's case raises fundamental questions about crime, punishment, and digital privacy. Should prosecutors be able to compel suspects to decrypt storage devices? Is digital privacy absolute, even for convicted criminals? More troubling, Schmidt represents a new generation of tech-savvy criminals who understand that digital evidence can be made permanently inaccessible. His encrypted drives contain more than financial records. They potentially hold customer data, supplier information, and operational methods that could be used to prosecute hundreds of other cases. All locked behind encryption that even governments cannot break. Schmidt has never revealed his passwords. He claims not to remember them. Courts cannot force him to provide them. The teenager who once documented everything now controls access to his own evidence. As at the time of recording this video, Maximilian Schmidt remains free in Leipzig. His retrial date is unscheduled. His encrypted wealth is untouchable. At 30 years old, he served less than 5 years total for operations that moved over a ton of drugs and generated millions in profits. He inspired a Netflix series, created new models for digital drug trafficking, and twice escaped serious consequences through legal technicalities and appeals. Some see him as a criminal mastermind who exploited legal and technological loopholes. Others view him as a young man whose intelligence was misdirected into destructive channels. But perhaps the most disturbing question isn't about Schmidt's guilt or innocence. It's about what he's planning next. Schmidt has never shown remorse. He's never acknowledged the harm his operations caused. He's never cooperated with efforts to recover hidden profits. Instead, he's demonstrated remarkable patience, legal sophistication, and technological expertise. The bedroom dealer who revolutionized drug trafficking twice might already be working on version 3. Do you think Maximilian Schmidt is a criminal mastermind who deserves decades in prison, or a misguided genius whose story represents the failures of the justice system to handle tech-savvy criminals? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspectives help shape our future investigations. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button, share it with someone who loves true crime. But never one like Maximilian Schmidt. He sat calmly as prosecutors read the charges. 1 count of drug trafficking, operating an illegal marketplace, money laundering. The evidence was overwhelming. Schmidt was 20 when arrested, but German law tried him as a juvenile. The sentence, 7 years in prison, a haromilio, euro pensbuntatis, a alamnak, and confiscation of all profits. Authorities recovered about 350,000 euros from Schmidt's Bitcoin wallets. but most of the money had vanished, hidden in encrypted drives, lost in digital wallets, converted to untraceable assets. Police still don't know where most of the 4.1 million euros went. During sentencing, Schmidt showed the same unsettling calm he'd displayed during his arrest. No apologies, no remorse, just quiet calculation. He told the court, if people weren't getting drugs from me, they would have gotten them elsewhere. The judge called it one of the most significant cybercrime cases in German history. But Schmidt wasn't listening to history. He was planning the future. Behind bars, Schmidt became a celebrity. First came the media attention. The bedroom dealer story spread globally. A teenager who built a drug empire from his childhood room. The narrative was irresistible. Then came Hollywood. Netflix approached Schmidt while he was serving his sentence. They wanted to tell his story. 2 projects emerged. A fictional series called How to Sell Drugs Online, Fast, and a documentary titled Shiny Flakes, the Teenage Drug Lord. Schmidt agreed to cooperate. Film crews visited Leipzig prison. He gave interviews, demonstrated his methods, returned to a studio recreation of his childhood bedroom to show exactly how Shiny Flakes operated. In the documentary, Schmidt described prison life. Very, very, very boring. Here you hear nothing. Get up early, go to sleep in the evening. The filming gave him purpose, direction, and something investigators wouldn't realize until later: cover. During production, Schmidt appeared reflective, analytical. He explained his business model with clinical precision. You paid up front, then it was processed and shipped. Instead of shoes, it was drugs.
Nachgefunden.
Das ist wie Amazon.
Es wurde im Voraus bezahlt, dann wurde es bearbeitet und versendet.
Schmidt wasn't just explaining his past. He was advertising his capabilities. The documentary aired worldwide on Netflix in August 2021. Schmidt had already been released. After serving 4 years and 7 months, less than his full sentence, Schmidt walked free in mid-2019. Good behavior, model prisoner, successful rehabilitation. At least that's what officials believed. In reality, Schmidt had spent his final months in open prison, planning something new. He'd met someone important, Friedemann G., a fellow inmate with logistics experience. Together they discussed possibilities, market opportunities, the gaps Shiny Flakes had left behind. Schmidt's release conditions were strict: regular check-ins, employment requirements, digital monitoring. He found work at a car park, seemed to be building a normal life. He even had a girlfriend. But normality was never Schmidt's goal. By early 2020, as the world entered pandemic lockdown, Schmidt was back in business. The new operation was called Candy Love. The domain, candylove.to. This time, Schmidt wasn't working alone. Friedemann G. handled logistics and operations. 2 additional men, Jens M. and Julius M., managed packaging and delivery. A lawyer allegedly provided legal advice. Unlike Shiny Flakes, which operated from Schmidt's bedroom, Candy Love was based in a small student apartment in Leipzig's city centre. More professional, more sophisticated, harder to trace. The product range was familiar: amphetamines, hashish, MDMA, crystal meth, cocaine. But the operation was leaner, more efficient. Between April 2019, while Schmidt was still technically in prison, and January 2021, Candy Love processed around 471 deliveries. Total volume: 20 kilograms of drugs worth nearly 95,000 euros. Smaller scale than Shiny Flakes, but higher margins, better security, professional management. Schmidt had learned from his mistakes. The distribution method remained the same: Germany's postal service, anonymous packages, no return addresses, standard shipping. But Schmidt added layers of protection, multiple apartments, rotating locations, encrypted communications, compartmentalized operations. Each team member knew only their piece of the puzzle. Schmidt controlled the technology. G managed logistics. The others handled manual labor. It was drug trafficking as corporate structure. What made Candy Love particularly audacious was its timing. Schmidt allegedly began planning the operation while filming his Netflix documentary, In Prison, on camera. Investigators later suspected that some transactions occurred around his filming schedule. Schmidt used his documentary participation as both cover and alibi. While discussing his past crimes for the cameras, he was allegedly coordinating future ones through encrypted channels. The documentary showed Schmidt as reformed, reflective, someone who had learned from his mistakes. In reality, he was applying those lessons to build something bigger. For nearly 2 years, Candy Love operated undetected. Schmidt had addressed every weakness that brought down shiny flakes. No single location shipping, no direct personal involvement in packaging, no customer service from his personal devices. The operation used multiple Bitcoin wallets, rotating delivery addresses, professional packaging that looked like legitimate e-commerce. Customer reviews were positive, delivery times were consistent, product quality remained high. From the outside, it looked like Schmidt had successfully transitioned to legitimate life. Car park job, stable relationship, low profile. But investigators would later discover the scale of his hidden activities. Bank records showed unexplained income. Digital forensics revealed encrypted communications. Travel patterns suggested coordination activities. Schmidt wasn't just back in the drug business. He had evolved it. The teenager who once operated from his bedroom had become the architect of a distributed criminal network. More sophisticated, more secure, more profitable. But like all criminal operations, Candy Love had a fatal flaw. And unlike shiny flakes, this time Schmidt wouldn't be able to talk his way out of consequences. History repeated itself with cruel precision. In early 2021, postal workers at Leipzig's sorting facility encountered familiar problems. Undeliverable packages, no return addresses, delivery mix-ups. When they opened them, they found drugs. The same drugs, the same packaging methods, the same postal district. Someone was using Schmidt's playbook. But investigators quickly realized it wasn't just someone copying his methods. It was Schmidt himself. The packages traced back to the CandyLove domain. Police began placing test orders. Digital surveillance resumed. Bitcoin transactions were tracked. Every thread led back to a student apartment in Leipzig's city center, and to a name authorities recognized, Maximilian Schmidt. But this time, he wasn't working alone. The discovery triggered a multi-year investigation. Police established surveillance on the Leipzig apartment. They tracked Bitcoin wallets. They monitored postal patterns across multiple districts. Unlike the original Shiny Flakes investigation, this one moved slowly, methodically. Authorities wanted the entire network. Undercover officers placed multiple orders through Candy Love. Each purchase provided evidence, fingerprints on packaging, digital forensics on communications, financial traces